Imagine a place that tells a story spanning centuries, where culture and nature intertwine to create something truly extraordinary. That's the beauty of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I'm Abigail, and this is Global Treasures, the podcast that covers the history, travel tips, and legends surrounding one of the 1,223 World Heritage Sites each episode. These places have been identified as having universal cultural or natural significance that is so exceptional that it transcends national boundaries and is of importance to present and future generations. Welcome to Season 2, where we'll explore the 45 sites that UNESCO added in 1979 together. Thank you for listening to the Global Treasures podcast. We appreciate all of your support, and you can continue to support us by subscribing at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podbean. You can also follow us on Facebook, and please share this podcast with your friends. Dawn breaks over Ngorongoro Crater, and a prehistoric scene unfolds beneath the misty rim of the world's largest intact volcanic caldera. The first rays of sunlight pierce the morning haze, illuminating a landscape that has remained largely unchanged for millions of years. Below, across the crater floor's vast expanse, dark shapes begin to move, herds of wildebeest and zebra emerging from the shadows, while distant lions call out across the savanna. This is no ordinary wildlife sanctuary. It's a living time capsule where the story of human evolution intersects with one of Earth's most spectacular natural amphitheaters. The sound of cowbells echoes across the grasslands, the same sound that gave this place its name, as Maasai herders continue age-old traditions within sight of ancient footprints left by our earliest ancestors. Welcome to the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, where every sunrise reveals a land that bridges deep time with the present day. The Ngorongoro Conservation Area stands as a testament to nature's raw power and humanity's deepest roots. At its heart lies the Ngorongoro Crater, the world's largest unbroken caldera, a volcanic crater spanning 260 square kilometers that crashed into existence between 2 and 3 million years ago. But this vast protected area encompasses far more than just its namesake crater. Stretching across 8,292 square kilometers of Tanzania's northern highlands, it forms a complex mosaic of ecosystems, from the famous crater floor to the lesser-known but equally magnificent Mpikai and Almoti craters, from the archaeological treasures of Olduvai Gorge to the sweeping Serengeti plains that mark its northwestern boundaries. What makes Ngorongoro truly unique in the world of conservation is its innovative approach to protecting both natural and cultural heritage. Since its establishment in 1959, it's served as a pioneering experiment in multiple land use, where wildlife conservation coexists with traditional Maasai pastoralism. This delicate balance earned it recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1979, and in 2010, its status was upgraded to acknowledge both its natural and cultural significance, a rare distinction that speaks to the area's extraordinary value to our understanding of both natural history and human origins. And the over 500,000 visitors it gets each year is a testament to its vast beauty. The geology tells a story of tremendous forces and ancient fires. The crater itself formed when a massive volcano, once potentially taller than Mount Kilimanjaro, collapsed after a catastrophic eruption approximately 2.5 million years ago. The collapse created a caldera of staggering proportions, stretching nearly 12 miles across. To put this in perspective, before its collapse, the original volcano likely stood up to 5,800 meters or 3.5 miles tall, dominating the ancient landscape. But Ngorongoro is more than a single crater. It forms part of a volcanic complex known as the Crater Highlands, featuring 8 extinct shield volcanoes. To the northeast stands Ol Doinyo Lengai, the Mountain of God in Maasai language, an active volcano that continues to shape the landscape with recent eruptions, as recently as 2008. The crater floor itself is a masterpiece of geological engineering. At its heart lies Lake Magadi, a shallow alkaline lake fed by streams that flow from the crater walls. These water sources create a complex hydrology that supports the area's remarkable biodiversity. The very waters that sustain life today speak to the volcanic history of the region. The springs in the area emerge warm from their journey through ancient volcanic pipes, creating vital oases that attract everything from hippos to elephants. The Ngorongoro Conservation Area holds some of the most important paleoanthropological sites on Earth, none more famous than Olduvai Gorge, an 8.6-mile-long ravine that has been called the cradle of humankind. For over 80 years, this remarkable site has yielded fossil evidence spanning nearly 4 million years of human evolution, providing an unprecedented window into our species' past. Perhaps most spectacular among these discoveries are the Laetoli footprints, fossilized human footprints preserved in volcanic ash, providing irrefutable evidence of bipedalism in our early ancestors 3.6 million years ago. These ancient tracks tell us that our ancestors walked upright long before they developed the large brains that would later characterize our species. The gorge has also yielded countless crucial fossils, including the famous fossils discovered by Mary Leakey in 1959, and numerous specimens of early Homo erectus. These discoveries have helped piece together the complex puzzle of human evolution, showing how our ancestors evolved. The Ngorongoro crater functions as a natural enclosure for one of Africa's most dense concentrations of wildlife. Within its walls, approximately 25,000 large animals thrive, in a remarkable balance of predator and prey. The crater floor hosts one of the most densest known populations of lions, though their isolation has led to interesting challenges, including genetic bottlenecks that scientists closely monitor. Among its most precious residents are the critically endangered black rhinoceros, whose population has faced severe challenges over the decades, declining from over 100 individuals in the 1960s to just a handful today. Yet, despite these challenges, the crater remains one of the best places in the world to see one of these magnificent creatures in their natural habitat. The diversity of wildlife is staggering. Vast herds of wildebeest and zebra share the grasslands with thousands of Grant's and Thompson's gazelles, while Cape buffalo gather in impressive numbers, particularly during the rainy season. What makes this ecosystem even more remarkable is its role in one of nature's greatest spectacles, the annual migration. During the wet season, approximately 20% of the wildebeest and half of the zebra populations leave the crater, joining the Greater Serengeti migration in a centuries-old pattern that has shaped the ecology of eastern Africa. This connection to the larger Serengeti ecosystem is vital. As the rains arrive, the crater's resident herds respond to an ancient call, ascending the steep crater walls to join the millions of animals in their circular journey across the Serengeti Plains. It's a dramatic example of how the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, despite its apparent isolation, remains intimately connected to the greater rhythms of the East African wildlife. The wildebeest population, which can reach up to 7,000 inside the crater during peak seasons, becomes part of a migration that involves over 2 million animals across the broader region. This movement creates a dynamic ecosystem where wildlife numbers ebb and flow with the seasons. While some species, like the Cape buffalo, remain year-round residents, others participate in this grand cyclical journey, following ancient pathways that connect the crater to the broader Serengeti Mara ecosystem. The crater's permanent water sources, including the hippo pools, support this diverse population and attract abundant bird life, including thousands of lesser flamingos that gather at Lake Magadi, their pink plumage creating a striking contrast against the alkaline waters. The story of Ngorongoro is not complete without acknowledging its human inhabitants, particularly the Maasai people, who have called this region home since the 1800s. Their arrival followed earlier inhabitants, including the Datuga, creating a rich tapestry of human history in the region. The very name, Ngorongoro, comes from the Maasai language, referring to the sound of cowbells echoing across the crater. However, this coexistence between conservation and culture has not been without its challenges. The establishment of the conservation area in 1959 represented a groundbreaking attempt to balance wildlife protection with human rights, a contrast to the complete removal of indigenous peoples that characterized many other African parks. Yet this balance remains delicate, with ongoing debates about land use rights, traditional grazing practices, and the increasing pressure of tourism. The conservation area faces modern challenges that would have been unimaginable to its earliest inhabitants. Climate change threatens traditional patterns of both wildlife migration and pastoral activities. Tourism, while providing crucial revenue for conservation efforts, places increasing pressure on the fragile ecosystem. In 2009, the Wildlife Conservation Act imposed stricter land use regulations, creating new tensions between conservation goals and traditional practices. Here's something that might surprise you. While the crater hosts an incredibly diverse population of wildlife, some species are notably absent. You won't find giraffes here. The crater walls are too steep for them to navigate. Similarly, impala and crocodiles are missing from this otherwise complete ecosystem. The crater's isolation has created fascinating evolutionary pressures. For instance, the crater's lion population has developed distinct characteristics due to their relative isolation, though this has also led to concerns about genetic diversity. Another intriguing detail is the presence of a unique species found nowhere else on Earth, Dumastrue, which lives only in the montane forests along the crater's edge. This tiny mammal serves as a reminder of how specialized niches within the conservation area have led to unique evolutionary adaptations. As the sun sets over the crater rim, painting the sky in spectacular hues of orange and purple, one can't help but feel connected to both the ancient past and the urgent present of this remarkable place. Whether you're a wildlife enthusiast, an archaeological buff, or simply someone who appreciates the raw beauty of nature, the Ngorongoro Conservation Area offers an experience that will stay with you long after you've left its borders. But before you pack your bags, let's talk about the practical aspects of visiting this extraordinary destination. If you're flying in from another country, you'll likely want to fly into Lake Manyara or Kilimanjaro Airport. A note about Lake Manyara: if your guide and vehicle are provided by your camp or tour, my understanding is you can fly in here. If not, you may want to reach out to them ahead of time before trying to book a flight online. You can ask your hotel if they offer a transfer service, or you can ask your tour operator for suggestions if it isn't included in the cost. I will add that if you fly into Kilimanjaro, it appears it'll take about 3 hours to get here. I highly suggest booking a hiking tour, group tour, or some sort of safari because vehicle access to the crater and other popular parts of the site requires limits due to conservation efforts. My understanding is tours often have that clearance. Ngorongoro also closes in the evenings due to safety. On top of that, Swahili is the primary language. While many speak English in tourist spots, you'll have the comfort of knowing your guide speaks your native language and can help arrange activities, food, and accommodations for you. Also, they likely are the experts of the area and will know the best spots for you to get incredible photos of those magnificent animals we discussed earlier. Park entry fees depend on what you plan on doing in the park, whether you have a vehicle, etc. So I highly recommend checking out the website prior to entry. In terms of weather, temperatures typically run from the low 50s in the morning to mid-80s Fahrenheit in the afternoon, and that's throughout most of the year. The majority of the heavy rainfall is during the months of March, April, and November, so you may want to keep that in mind when booking your trip. For places to stay, there aren't many homestay options in this area, and the lodges, such as the famous Crater Lodge, is incredibly expensive. Again, this is why I strongly suggest a tour that includes accommodations. And same goes for restaurants. There aren't many in this area because it's remote. However, if you get the chance to try some dishes unique to the area, I suggest ugali. This is actually cornflour mush that's served as a side dish and is considered to be the national dish. I always describe it to people as polenta adjacent. This site truly is a treasure trove. There is so much to do. You can see the crater, of course, Olduvai Gorge, and Pakai Crater, and if you're feeling brave, you can make the trek afterwards to try to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. You can also take a picturesque hot air balloon ride over the crater. Finally, if you get the opportunity, I highly suggest scheduling a tour to get acquainted with the customs of the Maasai people. I will forewarn that they will likely try to sell you the homemade items, such as art they make, at the conclusion of the tour. But this is important because it helps dispel myths about indigenous populations. For example, many thought that the Maasai people were extinct, and in schools, we often learn that they're a nomadic people, but that isn't necessarily the case anymore. Experiencing new customs, beliefs, and ways of life makes us more informed travelers and global citizens. Thank you for listening to the Global Treasures podcast. Our next episode will take us to another UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Nubian monuments from Abu Simbel to Philae, a village in Egypt that is the site of two rock temples built by Pharaoh Ramesses II in the 13th century BC. Until then, keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep treasuring the remarkable diversity of our world's heritage.